On today's episode of Empowering Women in Real Estate, the podcast, we're going to be talking about my 2026 word of the year.
Hi, I'm Karen Cooper, a wife, mom of three, real estate broker, team owner, and founder of Empowering Women in Real Estate. As a realtor, I've personally helped well over 700 families in my career, and now I help thousands of women from all across the country balance real life and real estate through daily inspiration, motivation, and actionable plans to increase their success. Listen in as I share stories and tips from my life and business and interview some of my favorite people.
Hi there. I'm so glad you're here for today's episode. Happy New Year. Whenever, assuming if you're listening to this on the day it airs, which is New Year's Eve, or maybe in the next few days after, we are embarking on a brand new year, 2026. And that is always exciting, at least for me. I always feel so excited about a new year. It just feels very hopeful and exciting. It can also feel scary. I know many women in the real estate industry that the new year is always a little frightening for them because, those numbers they've been tracking all year long for their sales reset back to zero. You start again at zero, and that can feel scary. That can feel frightening. But overall, I think it's an exciting, hopeful, energetic time. And one of the things that I always do, I've done this for, I don't know, 15 years, maybe 12, 15 years, is a word of the year. And I first heard, I actually don't even remember. And if you go back, this is what, I think year 5 of the podcast. Yeah, year 5. Every year about this time, either to end the previous year or to start the new year, I will do an episode on word of the year. And in one of those episodes, I actually share where I kind of first was introduced to this. It's been so long now, I honestly don't remember. But I have been using a word of the year ever since. And if you have never tried using a word of the year, I would encourage you to give it a try. One of the things that I find that it really does for me, especially depending on the word that I choose, it helps to give me a little bit of direction. And it helps to give me like a reference point to measure other things against. Like, for example, I've used the word simplify. I've actually used the word simplify twice because it really worked really well for me. And so the years that my word was simplify, I remember distinctly every time I would go to like create something new or add in a new service for my team or put something new in my business, every time I started to do that, I would measure back to the word simplify. And I would think, okay, by doing this, is this going to simplify my life? Is this going to simplify anything in my business? Is this going to, and so a lot of times the answer would be no. And so it actually helped me to simplify and to keep things, kind of keep things moving in a better way and in the theme of what I wanted. And so having a word like that can be so grounding. It can also be affirming. It can give you direction. My 2025 word of the year was worthy. And I talked about this in last week's episode. I would write every day, and this is kind of where it started, where I decided to use the word worthy, because I'd actually started doing it the year previous, where I would write in my journal, I am worthy of my dreams. I am worthy of my dreams. Because I realized that I didn't actually really think that I was. Everybody else was. And, somehow my job became to make everybody else's life okay and to help everybody else's dreams come true. But what about mine? I didn't necessarily feel that I was worthy of prioritizing my own dreams. And so having that word, using the word worthy this year, in 2025 really helped me to, it was part of my journaling exercises. I would use the word a lot. It really helped me to kind of be focused on that. And it really helped to boost my self-esteem, I will say. And so, when it comes to choosing a word of the year, gosh, I don't really have, I've got some ideas for you for how to do it. And in fact, this was part of our, if you are part of my real estate team or if you are part of our Empowering Women in Real Estate Inner Circle, we do a whole business planning workshop that has a big workbook that includes like your annual review and your goal setting. And we included a section this year on identifying your word of the year. And so there are a few little steps that you can, thinking about. I would like to play around with some words sometimes, just kind of thinking about what do I want the year to be? What is the feeling that I want to evoke in the year? What's the direction that I want? Is there a certain, when we did the annual reset call where, everybody kind of came together and talked about the results from the workbook, from the business planning, I asked people to share their word and multiple people use the word consistency. Consistency is something that a lot of us need in our real estate businesses. And so, you could choose a word, something like that, that kind of gives you a direction of what you're wanting or looking to do. For me, especially the last few years, I just kind of let the word come to me. And I start thinking about the word, honestly, a couple of months before the year even ends. I'll start sort of just kind of tossing some words around based on, how I'm feeling, the direction I'm moving in. I spend so much time in November and December, really even in October too, because that's when a lot of the prep work starts, with creating the workbook and running the sessions for the reviews and the goal settings. I actually don't get to my own goals until the end of the year. So it's usually like the last week of December, like right around now, is when I am doing my own goals. But my word of the year, I start kind of thinking about usually a month or so, a couple months before the end of the year. And it always will just kind of come to me. And so this year, I was certain that my word of the year for 2026 was going to be open. And so anybody who took or is currently taking my midlife real estate blueprint course. So we did our first live cohort back in September. It's a 5-week live course. Now we have a more affordable self-paced option where you get access to all of your instructional videos and slides and exercises and everything all right away. Do it at your own pace. And then we have our next, and in fact, the launch is going to officially start tomorrow. The course is available on the website January 1st, but we're getting ready to launch our January cohort, which will begin on, I think it's January 15th is the first day. But if you have participated in that course with me, you know that the word that I think that I said the most during that process was open. And in fact, there's a part of that course, there's a commitment that I would review with everyone at the beginning of each video, at the beginning of each session, just talking about, being open, right? Being open to possibility, it doesn't mean that you have to change everything, doesn't mean that just being open to the possibilities, being open to different ways of doing things. And so I was saying open so much, I was sure that open was my word. And it was probably a few weeks after I had kind of mentally decided that open was going to be my word that I realized that open wasn't enough, that my word needed to be surrender. Because it's one thing to be open, right? To be open to opportunities, to be open to possibilities, to be open to support, to be open to, new things. It's one thing to be open, but it's a completely another thing to surrender to it. Right? You can be open to it, but that doesn't mean you're actually going to change anything. You can be open to it, but that doesn't mean you actually really believe it. You can be open to it, but that doesn't mean that you're actually going to, allow anything else in your life. But when you surrender, and that is hard for someone like me who loves to control all the things. I love to control the things. But I really need to surrender. I need to surrender that there is a bigger plan for me. I need to surrender to the fact that I am holding myself back most of the time when it comes to God's plan for me. And it's not enough for me to be open to possibilities. It's not enough for me to be open to, whatever his plan is for me. I need to surrender to that plan. And that's going to take some courage. So, of course, I'm also telling you all of this for accountability. It's going to take some courage. And it's going to require letting go. It's going to require being brave. It's going to require probably doing some things I don't want to do, probably doing some things I'm uncomfortable with. It's going to require being okay, being anxious and afraid, which are all things I don't like and all things that I fight. But I think that's all going to be necessary in order to fully surrender. And so surrender is the word that I have chosen. And I don't think I've ever quite chosen a word like this. Words I've used in the past have been, obviously worthy and simplify and grateful and faith and trust and purpose. But I don't think I've ever, in fact, I have never used a word like surrender.
If you're an experienced woman in real estate and you've been feeling the pull to evolve your business, to earn well without the 24/7 pace, pressure, and burnout, then the Midlife Real Estate Blueprint was made for you. Our next live cohort starts on January 15th, and it's a transformational 5-week experience where I will walk you step by step through redesigning your business to match the season of life you're in now and the way you want to work at this stage, with more clarity, confidence, breathing room, and a model that actually supports your life. If you're craving a sustainable strategy, a supportive community, and a roadmap that shows you what's truly possible in midlife real estate, this is it. Enrollment is open now. Join us for the January 15th cohort. I would love to guide you through it. Go to empoweringwomenrealestate.com and click on Midlife Real Estate Blueprint.
And just to kind of clarify what I mean by the word surrender, because I think you could look at it, sometimes I think when you hear the word surrender, you think, well, you're giving up, right? I'm surrendering. I'm waving the white flag. That's not what I mean. Surrender isn't meaning to me giving up. It's not meaning being passive. It's not meaning abandoning goals. It doesn't mean just letting life happen to me. What surrender is meaning to me is releasing the illusion of control, because I don't have control. It is trusting timing, right? The timing of my life and the things that are happening, and just fully surrendering to that. It means letting things unfold without gripping or holding on, right? Like, have you ever had that feeling like things are changing in your life or things are happening, and so it's like you're like white knuckling it. You're holding so tight to what used to be, and it's letting go, right? It's letting things unfold. That's the surrender that I'm talking about. No longer pushing away from fear. I don't like fear. I struggle with anxiety. I don't like to worry. I don't like to be afraid. And so I, of course, will do anything I can to avoid those feelings. And sometimes that's very reasonable, right? But as long as I am safe, there is no reason to push away from that so much. It means, to me, surrender means allowing for help, allowing for support, allowing for unexpected opportunities. It means choosing flow. Like, I love being and have you ever had this? And I get like this sometimes with my work, and it's when I'm happiest. It's when I always know that I am moving in the right path, is when things just feel like they're in flow. Like it feels good. And surrendering into that feeling of flow instead of trying to force things to happen. It's just a completely different energy. And so for me, it really feels, it's not like stepping back or giving up. Surrender is like, it's settling into a deeper truth about my purpose, my path, that I've probably been, not probably, that I have been resisting. So there's a lot of things, for me with surrender, like, and I did really sort of start this year. It's hard for a people pleaser, which you might be as well. But, surrendering the fear of disappointing people. When you prioritize your own life, doesn't that sound crazy to say? Like, we're taught that it's selfish to like prioritize our own wants or needs, but it's our own life. And what I'm learning is that the happier my life is, the happier I am in my life, the more that I'm acting in my zone of genius, the more that I am moving in my purpose, the more and better impact I can have on people around me. So it's actually selfish to not prioritize myself, because if I don't, then I am not even coming close to touching the potential of what I can do for other people. And so it's kind of surrendering that fear of disappointing what someone else wants. Surrendering a lot of the old ways of working and doing things that just don't match my life anymore. Saying no to things that other people maybe don't understand, but it doesn't make sense for me anymore. And just really surrendering to that. There's a feeling of needing to surrender the really heavy expectations that I have to carry everything for everyone. And for years, and anybody who has been a caregiver in their family, or, the go-to person, right? Everybody in their family, you have the go-to person. And I have, at my nephew's funeral, we were planning it 2 years ago. It's been 2 years. And I looked at everybody around the table and I said, I am never doing this again. This is my last funeral, because I was the person, right? My mom, my dad, my mother-in-law, like I was the person who would plan everything. And I said, no more. And it's a heavy weight and a heavy expectation when you feel like you have to carry everything. Surrendering the pressure to have the next step, whatever the next step is, fully figured out. I think that we have a tendency, at least I do, to think that we have to have every step figured out from A to B of where we're going, right? How we're going to make this happen, how we're going to get this house sold, how we're going to find our next lead, how we're going to, whatever it is, we think we have to have every single step figured out. But the truth of the matter is, you cannot have every single step figured out. And you have to move with faith, and you see the next step, or you kind of get an idea of the next step. And so you move in that direction, and then it starts to become clear. And then the next step starts to become clear. And so really kind of surrendering to that, surrendering to the unknown, I guess, in a way, surrendering to, a plan that is for me, that God has for me, that I don't fully know or see or understand, but I'm choosing to trust and surrender to that. Surrendering the fear that stepping into whatever my next level is going to be hard. It's going to cause things to be uncomfortable for me. It's going to upset other people. But that's your life path. And if you are not surrendering to the path that is for you, what are you doing with your life? How are you going to, pursue your purpose and have the biggest impact that you possibly can on the people around you? And if you're not fully actualizing that. So that's a lot of where I'm coming from with the word surrender. And, there's a lot of different things that I'm really kind of surrendering in terms of, in my real estate business, as a mother in this season of my life. I'm going to be 53 in 2026. And, surrender feels really good. Surrender feels right. And so, this is the year. This is the year that I am going to fully surrender to whatever this plan is for me, and stop blocking it, fighting it, and just fully lean into the version of my life that's waiting for me on the other side of letting go. So that is my word. So my invitation to you is to choose your own word, but also listen for the word that's choosing you, because I think a lot of times the word does choose us. And so when you pick a word, don't pick the safe word. When you pick a word that stretches you, or maybe scares you a little bit, or kind of feels like a nudge that's coming from somewhere deeper, that's the one. That's the word. And your word isn't supposed to feel easy. It's just supposed to feel right. So a couple of questions, little journaling prompts that you could use, or you could try to answer for yourself, that could help you to get to the word for you is, where am I hanging on too tightly in my life or in my business? What would feel lighter if I just surrendered it? What is the word my next level self is asking for? And here's the thing that I will say is, choose your word, but you also have the power to change your word. And, there have been phases of my life where I have done that. It started with one word and then, a year, 365 days, it goes fast, but it's also a long time and a lot can happen. And so sometimes that word needs to shift. And so don't put yourself under so much pressure that you've got to choose the perfect thing. Choose the one that feels right. And if you have to change it at some point, you change it, and that's okay. So that is what I have for you today. I would love to know your word. So if you choose a word of the year, come message me on Instagram. I'm at karen.w.cooper, or come over to our group on Facebook, Empowering Women in Real Estate. There are over 40,000 women in the real estate industry that are there. Comment on today's post about the episode. Share your word of the year. I would love to know what it is. And I wish you a very, very happy new year. And until next time, stay well.
Thank you for listening to Empowering Women in Real Estate, the podcast. Click subscribe to be notified every Wednesday when our latest episode is released, and be sure to check out our group on Facebook.